All right, this is Adam here. Lesson three, going through the build settings tab in the Bink machine. I'm going to try to keep this real simple so that, again, you want the optimizer to work for you and you don't want to be thinking about how do I do this again? So I'm going to really try to hit on the things that I am going to think about that are variable each week and the things that I'm going to keep static. Again, on Saturday night, I don't want to be thinking about how do I set up the optimizer right? I just want to do the thing and set and forget so that I can really think about how to attack the slate. So the first thing is there's this bracketed owner. I'm here as players. I'm in the build settings tab right now. And in the build settings tab, there are a few settings. I'm going to go walk through these real fast. Bracketed ownership. This basically says you can like force certain players that are under 2.5% owned or things like that. I don't touch this. I already know how I want to build lineups. I'm going to do that in a different way. I don't try to tinker with this at all. So I actually leave it alone. You'll see this is grayed out right now because as on Labor Day, September 2nd, 2024, we don't have ownership projections. So I can't adjust this, but you will be able to adjust this. I don't. Again, try to make it easy. Flex parameters. This is actually a really important one that you should think about. You need to ask yourself and be very deliberate. I feel like you should be very deliberate about this. How do you want your flex position to look? Do you want it to be mostly wide receivers? Do you want it to be double tight end? Is it a double tight end week? Is it, do I want a lot of running backs in the flex? How do I want to attack this? I typically will make this a cumulative 100 or 110%, meaning I want to be very specific about the position that I want to be in my flex. Most weeks, and this is a personal preference, most weeks it looks like this. I want my flex to be only wide receivers. Now, there was like as I'm learning and growing, I said maybe there was like a two really clear two tight end week last one of the weeks in 2023. And so I was like, maybe I'll do it like this. And so I gave a little bit of room here so I could have up to 80% of my flex being wide receiver. But I really was going to target 30% of my roster to be double tight end. And there are some weeks where you actually want a running back in the flex. And so, you could set it up like this if you wanted to have it set different ways. I think this is actually a really important point, though. And you'll see when I talk about the canvas later, where I actually do my projected ownership for every single player that I want in my pool. It has to match what I set here. And so just for the sake of what I'll probably end up doing with one is this. I want a wide receiver in every flex, so I'm going to put wide receiver 100%. So very important that you think about this. This is something that you actually need to consider when you're building rosters. Salary range, I typically leave it right here between 49.6 and 50,000. Week one is really, and I've never done this yet, but I probably will for week one. Week one is so loose in its pricing, I might set it to 49,000 minimum. We'll see. But I typically set it at 49.5. So I will force the salary to at least be 49,500, max obviously at 50,000. Total ownership here, again, I can't adjust this right now because ownership is not out as of Monday, September 2nd. When it comes out, I typically adjust this. I don't want to be too contrarian, but I don't want to be too chalky. I've learned not to worry about this too much. So I typically set it between 70 and 120 a total ownership percentage. I adjust this a little bit if I know I'm going to be like super contrarian. That's just how I'm thinking about. But I'll set this between 70 and 120% typically. Min unique players. I actually am have a very clear opinion about this. I don't like min unique players of one. That means I could have several rosters where only one player is unique in the roster. So it's effectively forcing a same price pivot, which is not a lever. And so I intentionally set min unique to at least two. Some weeks I'll do three, but most I've learned I get really rosters that I really like based on how I play by setting min unique to two. And I highly recommend not setting it to one. I wouldn't go past three. I would typically set it to two or three. Um, If you go past that, build your lineups and see how it looks. But I typically set this to two. Some weeks set it to three, but I think it was two almost every week last year. Randomness. Uh, this is adding a level of randomness to your projected points. Um, I tinkered around with this last year. And there's some math theory behind this. But if you're doing JM's presets, which I am going to be doing this year, I'm probably just going to set these to none every week. So that it's literally for there's no randomness on the projections. I this projection ownership really matters with the total ownership and this. I don't really mess with that. So I'm probably going to set for this year, I'm going to set all these to none so that it literally is completely in my control as to what I use. That's the build settings tab of the Bink Machine. And in the next lesson, I'm going to quickly show you how I do the team stacks tab.